Hey YouTube, welcome back to UniXTCG, and this video will be another Gundam card game video, a Newtype insight showcase, this time focusing on green, blue, 1 Year War Aggro. A couple of you guys in the comments have requested this one, and I actually do love this deck, being a huge fan of Mobile Suit Gundam, the original series, and so yeah, it's time to dive into this. Now, real quick, just gonna let you guys know that there will be a couple day break in between content. Later this morning, I will be getting on a plane to attend my grandfather's funeral, so I will not be back with content until Monday. Thank you guys for understanding and holding it down in the comments. I will actually spend most of this weekend trying to reply to comments when I have downtime, and then past that, just want to ask you guys to like the video if you like this sort of content, subscribe if you want to see more Gundam card game content in the future, and let's get into it. Okay, so we are back here with just the Eggman events page. As you guys should already know, it's pretty much the best place to get all this consolidated information on these topping lists and whatnot, so shout outs to Eggman. Now, going in here, we're gonna look at some of these just some of these lists. You've got shout outs to Lylan MVP for the Xeon Aggro list, and we're going to go in here and check this out. So it's called Xeon Aggro, but you guys know I like making my own names, and frankly, looking at all the cards in this deck, I don't think there can be a better name but 1 Year War Aggro, because pretty much outside of Pisces, all these cards are from the original 1 Year War that had Amuro and Char clashing heads so many times, and they are the focal pilots in this deck. So going into this, just to go through, you've got the DOP. This is just a early game card to come down, and you know, just check the consistency of the top card of your deck. Well, check top of your deck for consistency, but looking at this, you can see there's a slew of 1-drops. You want to be able to put the pressure on consistently, and then on top of that, you've got a couple cards in here like Gun Tank that's going to be here in order to help you with those trades. You know, somebody blocks one of your cards and then you're able to gun tank it off the board afterwards, or maybe you swing into it with something and then gun tank it afterwards. You're gonna see that there's a fair amount of high maneuver or high-mo in this deck. You've got actually things like well, that pop-up scared me for a second. You got a couple things like Char's Zaku 2, as well as Char's Gelgoog, which all can get linked with Char Aznable in order to give it high maneuver and quite the heft and AP stat. Also on this, you have G Fighter, which can change any any white-based team into a high maneuver unit for the turn. And in this list in particular, that'd be Gun Tank itself and the Gundam LR. But then you can also give them the haste / rush by pairing them, or linking them in this case, with Amuro Ray, and then that's pretty cool too. Going over this list as well, you've got some token spawners in the form of Char Zaku 2, Goof, Falmel, and then you've got the Amuro pilot that's going to be able to get blockers out of the way. That's the main purpose. Get a blocker out of the way, swinging for mad damage. So shout outs to Lylan MVP, and then we're gonna go see another list here. This is Bad Heaven. It seems like they went 2 or 4-2 in the same Eagle's Nest event. You're gonna see here, very much so similar. You've got the DOP, the Zaku 2, the Zaku 2. So you've got those 1-drops in there. You've got the Char Zaku 2, Char Zaku 2, Char's Gelgoog. And then because Gelgoog has the Xeon trait, if it links with Char Aznable, it becomes high maneuver too. So this is a fair amount of high maneuver in this deck. The key differences here though is that there are a lot of different tech cards for momentum. You still have the Goof for token spawning, but you also add the additional cards of Corsica base, which is going to come down and make some tokens. You've got Fortress Defense, which is going to make tokens, all in an effort to be able to close out game or just make some pressure that can't be moved around. You also have the addition of Big Zom to come down. I got a frog in my throat, I'm so sorry. A Big Zom to come down and just pretty much eradicate your opponent's blockers to hopefully close out game. If you got a wide board and you just drop Big Zom and then kill off most of the blockers and swing for game, that's going to be pretty strong. Also, because of Big Zom, you have Fortress Defense actually being a card that can double as Dozel Zabi, giving Big Zom haste, and that's going to allow you to really get in there with that Breach 4. So very, very, very strong. Makuve links with anything, and if it's Xeon, or sorry, pairs, and if it's Xeon, it's going to give it Breach 1, which is going to be a pretty cool effect when you think about it, because It gives breach to most of this deck, allowing you for some very favorable trades. It can also link with Gelgoog, allowing you to give this one haste and breach while you're at it. Very, very nice. Some show of resolves in order to replenish your hand so you don't just gas out like most aggro decks, and a tech citizens take a stand in order to just pump up your bodies. Now, the next list that we have here going down, this one, I think this link is broken from Gen Con, so we'll skip it, and then we'll go to defeat. Look at two more lists and then we'll get into the actual breakdown of the deck. So yeah, right here, another standard list. We don't see anything new here except this bottom part here. You've got Siege Ploy in order to tap more blockers. Pretty much an armor effect on a command card, just to get blockers out of your way. And you've got Intercept Orders. Same thing. Intercept Orders will put down Zawarts. Intercept Orders will also put down certain cards that'll just kind of get in the way, or that could be attacked with. Like if you want to clear somebody's board, you can hit that. But also, at 2, it can be a lucky burst to just hit another unit with 5 or less HP. So you've got a lot of get out of my way, I'm coming through cards right here at the end. And then the last list we're going to check out is the One Year War Aggro from this gentleman right here. As you can see, again, list isn't really doing anything different, but you do have a Falmel here at 3 strong copies in order to be able to make that. So one more list here. We got to give a shout out to the homeboy Caleb, excellent Battle Spirit Saga player, rest in peace to the game. Got some tops in Fusion World as well. He also piloted the deck. I think the only notable change here is that the maxing out of the Falmel, the inclusion of Makuve as well, but then the maxing out of the Anksha to have even more burn and pressure to just kind of close out some of these bodies. So now we're going to go talk about each one of these cards in detail and then move forward from there. So realistically, the whole purpose of this deck is to beat down your opponent before they can establish their strategy. You have a lot of 1-drops, a lot of cards that come in very hot and heavy. Once you break the EX base, you really just start getting in there with all these cards, sometimes even tokens thrown in the mix. And then on top of that, you're also able to throw in random high maneuver cards or high maneuver swings based on how often you get Char into your hand. So sometimes your opponent will try to establish a base and you'll just be like, nope, get that base out of the way, I'm going to keep swinging with all my bodies. And you can overwhelm your opponent very easily if you just open up enough 1-drops and then a singular Char with something Char can link to. So this is pretty much where it gets to. But on top of that, when you're facing decks like, per se, blue-white, you're going to be able to line up these 1-drops, and then all it takes is a singular Amuro to put down a blocker into rest position, and then you're able to go around it, blowing out all those cards. And then if they play more blockers, that's when you really lean into the high maneuver to get around them and close out the game. So no matter how you look at it, this is truly a quintessential aggro deck, and you are just trying to beat your opponent before they can get their own strategy off the ground, period. This deck tends to win in the first 4, maybe 6 turns, and yes, while it can't run out of gas, it's just very, very good at what it does because of the amount of aggro that it can put out. So yeah, you have a lot of things you can do here. It is fairly linear though. You just have a lot of good aggro routes. Very rewarding when you know you're just like straightforward plays, when you're very, very good at that momentum and calculating how that flow of battle is going to go. It does have some glaring weaknesses when it comes to matchups, but it also has some very, very, very incredibly easy wins in most cases. So yeah, we are going to go into each card and hit that breakdown, and let's get over to it. So the first card that we have to go over is the Dop. Now, the Dop is going to be pretty cool. Just a 1-drop you can play on turn 1 regardless of whether you have the EX resource or not. And the Dop is just going to be able to deploy and look at the top card of your deck, return to the top or bottom of your deck, leaves a 1/1 body behind. So you get to basically just ensure that your next draw is as optimal as possible. And then the cool thing is this can also link with Makuve to even make it a 2/2 with Breach in case you need to just ram it into something while taking a body. And that's really what you want to see out of a card. Expendable, but useful. Now the next card we have here is the Zaku 1. Pretty much same thing without the Scry. It's got an extra HP, so you can make this a 2/3 with the help of Makuve, but generally you're just going to play this on turn 1 to put out a body and then, you know, go into it afterwards. This is actually pretty cool. If you do decide to just put these guys on the board, they just really are bodies, but because of the 2 HP, they can't just be immediately destroyed by Gun Tank or Angsha, which are going to be prevalent cards in this deck's likely worst matchup. Now, going into the next one, you have Pisces. This isn't an every deck, but this is just another 1-drop, and you want to have a good saturation of 1-drops. A lot of decks either run the Zaku 1 or Pisces. I personally like the Zaku 1 for more synergy, simply because it can pair with Makuve, but to each their own. Some of these lists did not run Makuve. Either way, Pisces is there. Now, we're gonna go over to the 1-drops that require you to have level 2 now, and the first one is the Zaku 2. You guys should all remember this from the beta. It really is just a crazy cool card because it's going to be able to swing and then just take out the EX base immediately because it gains that +2 AP. That makes it extremely strong when you have things like Makuve, making this a 2-3 before it swings, and then going up to a 4-3 when it swings, when it has Makuve under it with Breach. That's actually pretty strong. However, the thing about this is you got to be careful with it because you need the follow-up to playing this card. When you play this card and swing, it is going to be really good in the offense, but in most cases, something's going to be able to chump it and not die. And if Elfrith is on the board, this card can't even get traction turning sideways unless you put Makuve under it. So that is something that I think a lot of people are going to have to just kind of get used to. It's a very tempo-oriented play. You just need to make sure you're playing it in the correct places. Next, you have the Zaku 2 that has no effect. It's just a 2-2. Just generally good stats for a 1-drop. Put it down, make sure it goes sideways as soon as possible. Then we're gonna move over to what I call the burn core, and or the burn tech more like. It's not quite big enough to be a core, but you've got Gun Tank. Gun Tank is just gonna come down, ping something for 1. We've already seen it. We already know this card. And realistically, if something just chumped you, whether it blocked you or it ran over your body, Gun Tank is an easy way to come down, punish them for that trade if they have low HP, and then leave a body behind to go into shields next turn. Also, it being white-based team, you're going to be able to give it high maneuver with the G Fighter if that becomes a play later on. I've won many a game by just giving high maneuver to a Gun Tank and having it jump over blockers. Along the same lines, you've got the Angsha. While it doesn't have the white base trait, so you can't give it that high-mo, it is going to have a much thicker body. A 3-3 for 2 is not bad at all, especially for when it pings. So not only is it still trying to clean up messes after you've exchanged battles with your opponent, but it's also going to have a 3-3 body that is very good just to engage either in clearing up board the following turn or just going into shields, you know what I mean? Pairing it with Amuro is going to be able to make it a 5-4, which is a pretty good stat line, and is going to also allow you to bust most bases with just 1 shot. So very cool. Now we're going to get into the Hymo core. I put these cards into the Hymo core mainly because any of these cards linked with Char are going to have Hymo, and that's going to just pretty much be the basis of getting past these blockers late game and stuff like that. So the first thing we got here is Char Zaku. This is a level 3 2 cost. During pair, destroyed, deploy 1 rested Char Zaku 2 token, 3 AP, 1 HP. So this is pretty cool. You can harass your opponent with this. When it's paired, it's going to hit for a whopping 5. It'll be a 5-3, and you can harass your opponent pretty well with this card. Now, when you actively get hit though, and you make that token, it's on your opponent now to get rid of that token, whether they send another body into it, but 3 AP is likely going to take the body you swing into with. Against one of its worst matchups, you will be able to get rid of the token fairly easily after clearing this body, but it is what it is. You just run that risk. I do think that, yeah, this deck is going to be... This card in general makes a lot of value because the token hides. You're not just playing out the goof, which we'll talk about later, and then making a token. They can just get rid of the token, get rid of the goof. No, you're going to have to get rid of this one, and then after they've allotted that swing, that damage, they're going to have to figure out more to get rid of the token. So, good value. Next card here, possibly one of the better cards in the game, is Char Zaku 2. Same exact level, same exact cost, and then you have the same exact stats, but then when destroyed, you're going to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and reveal 1 Xeon / Neo Xeon unit amongst them, add them to your hand. You're not really going to be able to pick up any Neo Xeon because that's just not in this color in this deck, but you will be able to pick up pretty much any of your green cards, except the pilot. So, very good. A card that essentially floats or replaces itself. We're always going to love those, and once again, with Char linked to it, you're going to be swinging for 5, and that's just pretty powerful. So now, going into the next card, we have G Fighter. G Fighter is pretty neat. Level 3 2 cost, 3-2, and then deploy, give one of your white base team units high maneuver. This is going to be a very good card for getting over blockers. If you play this and give high maneuver to itself and then pair it with Amuro, you can rest something, assure that this card will get its swing over a blocker, but then take your opponent one blocker down so you can just get in with everything. And then putting Amuro on this is going to make it a 5, getting rid of most bases that aren't the 6 HP bases. It's just a very, very solid value card in general, and adds on to more of the high maneuver core that you have at your disposal. And then last but not least, in the high maneuver core, you've got Char's Gelgoog, just because this is a level 4 cost 4/3 that you can discard a Xeon or Neo Xeon unit card, and then put a Newtype pilot with level 3 or lower from your trash and pair it with this unit. So you're really just pulling Char from the trash and then pairing it with this unit, giving it Hi-Mo, and then allowing it to swing for 6, getting rid of quite a few good bases, and then being able to also just, you know, be a Hi-Mo attack that's gonna slap shot off the cuff. Now, honorable mention, not in this video, but the normal Gelgoog is cool too, because he will pair with both Makuve as well as Char and get the Hi-Mo, and it has the exact same stats, so you really are just looking at a bunch of cool stuff. You just need to have the Char in hand to pair with the Gelgoog, whereas this Char's Gelgoog will get Char straight up from the trash because it's literally Char's Gelgoog. And then we have the OG Grandpa Gundam, level 4, 3 cost. We've been over this actually in multiple builds now, but the coolest part about this is the repair 2 is going to allow you to chump a lot of things, just run over things, repair the damage off. But the during pair is very important because you're going to have all of your units get AP +1, and that's not linked, so you can put a Makuve under this, it won't get an effect, but that's cool. You can put a Char under this, and it'll become, what, a 4/5, and then it should still gain 1 AP, but no high maneuver. And that's kind of cool because if Char gets in this, then we're kind of looking at G-Quux territory, but hey, it is what it is. The point being here is that we have some really cool stuff that we're able to do, and I think that when you have this here and the during pair happens and everything gets 1 AP, everything becomes more dangerous. Your 1/1s become 2/1s, your 2/2s become 3/2s, and things linked with Char will be able to swing for 6, which will get out of the bases that Wing Gundam will play or Gundam Wing decks will play. So I really do enjoy that sort of synergy. Now, when it comes to the pilots, you really just focal pilots. You have 2 pilots, and then sometimes they're running 1 auxiliary pilot. Like I said, I don't want to toot my horn too much, but that deck building video, I feel like I nailed it. But look, you've got Amuro Ray, and Amuro Ray is a level 4, or sorry, yeah, you're a level 4 1 cost pilot, and he's really essential to this deck. Char is more essential, but Amuro Ray is very, very good in his own right because you don't necessarily need to link him. He links with G-Fighter, he links with Gundam, but you can put him under really anything to give that extra +2, +1, and then rest something with 5 or less. That's going to be Zawart, that's going to be Ilfrith, that's going to be a strike, whether it's paired or unpaired, unless it's like a 2 HP pair. There are a lot of things that you just put to the side, and this is good for that. But sometimes you'll put things to the side just so you can attack over them with Gundam, get them out of the way, get the repair going. There's a lot of good synergy that you can use, and Amuro Ray truly is just one of the best generic pilots in the game. Now, going over to the next one, you have Char, and Char really will be the aggression of the deck. He is going to, on attack, give that +2, +1. He can give high maneuver to a vast majority of the units in your deck, and high maneuver is really kind of the bread and butter of this deck. It's what gets you through the mid to late game where the field can get clogged up with some bad boy blockers. And then as the auxiliary pilot, we have Makuve. Most of this deck is going to be saturated with Xeon cards, so putting the Makuve onto these Xeon cards will give them breach 1, allowing you to hit face while you hit board, chump or crash into something to get rid of it so it can't harass you the following turn, but also get rid of a shield while you're at it, and that's what we need. The next card we have here is Goof, and this is going to be the start of the token tech because this deck is kind of dabbling in how to make tokens. And honorable mention out to Chara's Zaku 2, the rare, because it will make tokens. But you've got Goof as well, which is just going to deploy 1 rested Zaku 2 Xeon 1 AP 1 HP unit token. Kind of cool card. It's just going to make a body immediately. Your opponent has to deal with both this and the other one. They're probably going to deal with the token first. Most decks will have to a lot of swing to it or use something like Gun Cannon or Angsha. In the case of red blue, which we'll talk about later, it's very easy to get over this card, but in lots of decks they might not be able to get over the fact that you're putting out 2 bodies at one time, allowing you to hopefully break their EX base or their normal base and then use the token to get in for another damage. Then right here, you've got Fortress Defense. Fortress Defense will just make 2 tokens. Very important because there are going to be a lot of times where you and your opponent are going neck and neck. You're starting to peter out, and all you need are swings. You don't need anything fancy. You just need swings. And so playing a card that makes 2 tokens, your opponent already has to get rid of everything on your board. Those 2 tokens come in active, and therefore your opponent has to rest them and then get rid of them or ping them. So you kind of can really set your opponent in some really crappy situations by just putting some 2 tokens down right when they need to go neck and neck and get rid of your board in one go to stay alive. More token tech, we got Falmel. Falmel will put out the 3/1 Shar Zaku 2 token and also draw a card. So you'll draw a card, you'll put out a token, it's a win-win, and you protect your shields just in case you're facing another aggressive deck. So yeah, we like that. And then you have Corsica base rounding out the tech package for tokens, because this will make a 4/2 token, and then you will be able to, if you play it again later, play out 2 1/1 tokens, essentially doing what Fortress Defense is doing as well. So yeah, these are all the cards that are most commonly seen in these decks, and now we're going to get into the matchups. Okay, so now it's time to look at some of the matchups, and you really do have a lot of things to go into. So one, we're going to talk about the mirror. We haven't talked about that terribly enough, but when it comes to the mirror, it is very much so tempo. If you guys have played any game where you have to use any sort of energy, mana, resource, dawn, then when you have 2 aggro decks, it really becomes a complex game, because all of that aggression has to turn into your sword and your shield as well. You'll be turning cards into other cards, turning bodies into bodies. Their bodies go from face cards to kill spells against their bodies, and you have a very intricate game of tempo. So it really is tit for tat. You do have to curve out well, but in those games, Gundam and Armor Ray will probably provide so much value, as well as Guntank. Guntank and Angsha will get way more value in your mirrors than you could possibly think of. But really just the ability to eat a lot of your opponent's cards and then repair 2 off of it, resting cards that they play in active mode that don't have links, and then punching them before they can even get into the game, and then the ability to also just come in and burn them before they can get in there. So that's pretty much the mirror. You got to be smart about it, but it is going to be it's going to be a very big gear switch, because you will play differently in the mirror than you will play in any other matchup you can possibly have. Now, going over unicorn blockers, I have to give a shout out to Levi, because he is the homie. Shout out. And then going into this one, you have this kind of like setup. This is what this deck was meant to eat off of. And you'll see here that Lawlin MVP got first at 6-0, and then you got this unicorn blocker by Levi in 5-1, likely meaning that in the final round they faced each other. You guys can always go to Risu the Squirrel's channel. I'll leave that in the description so you guys can actually see the whole stream, but that's a great way to kind of see how this goes against each other, because essentially this deck will want to, you have the GM just for some early game pressure, just to not be stuck in the water on that first turn if you don't have the overflowing affection. You have the Gundam Ilfrith just to kind of check that. You have the Hawk of Endymion to hopefully bounce some of these lobies. You also have the Sword Strike Gundam when paired with Kira, linked with Kira. You'll be able to start bouncing things too. You got these blockers, but at the end of the day, if they just curve out well, hit you with the Armor Ray to like hit the Ilfrith down, or go for some high mo over Ilfrith, start slamming your bases. You do have 5 bases here, but that doesn't guarantee you seeing them. You can really start punching this deck in the face, and then once they start trying to get towards the middle of the game where they might try to lay down an Ailstrike, you can just kind of get over it with the high mo. So this is a really cool tempo deck, and if you want to see if I can break down the unicorn deck, just let me know. We'll take all those suggestions in the comments, but that's how this deck kind of got through it. And this is kind of a variant of the deck. This is more of a blue-white deck than a white-blue deck, but yeah. Now going into the next matchup, you got Wing Zero, and this is very, very important. This matchup is probably the bread and butter of this One Year War Aggro deck, because as you can see, you're playing out Zawart, Gundam Ilfrith, Ailstrike as your blocker defense. you are literally resting these with Amuro. You're swinging around them with Char and high maneuver, and you're just punching your opponent in the face over and over and over and over and over again. And yes, Wing Zero will wipe your board. If they do manage to put a wall of blockers and, you know, don't see the Amuro and don't see the Char, yeah, Wing Gundam will beat this deck in a lot of cases, because once they play Wing Gundam Zero and body those cards off the board, you're entirely depending on high maneuver to close out the game, and that just may not happen. But if you don't brick, if you draw optimally, you should be able to blitz this deck out of its mind. That's really just the thing. This should be a great, unless you brick with the deck, this should be one of your best matchups by far when playing this One Year War deck. It looks like we have another unicorn blockers, and I'm just gonna check this to make sure it's not any different. Yeah, very much so. This is actually, while they're both called unicorn blockers, these are two different lists by far. This is more, Levi's list is more of a tempo that is going to lean more into the unicorn build. You can see that with the fact that this is actually going to have the 4 of the unicorn mode into the unicorn destroy mode, so you can see where that goes, and 4 Benager, whereas this list is 100% just more of a seed list that has unicorn as the top end. You have 3 Benagers because the 2/2 stat line is pretty good, the 4 Amuro, the 4 Kira, the 2 unicorn, 2 freedom. This deck, again, is what this deck was meant to counter. You go in there, you line up the board with these 1-drops, you rest a blocker when need be, you high-mo over the blocker, and then you close out the game with high-mo later on. So once again, this is what this deck is supposed to eat, and again, it should be one of your better matchups unless you brick. And then the only other one that I think we need to touch on right here is going to be the Cyber Newtype Aggro, or as I call it, the like blue-red ping tempo. Now, when it comes to this deck, I think this is your red alert deck, because this deck will try to come at you at the same speed almost, except anytime you turn something sideways, it has the risk of being destroyed. You go first against this deck and they play out a 1-drop, and now your 1-drops can't really go sideways because their 1-drops will clear it up. You will send them sideways, you just won't be able to keep them past a turn. You play out a 1-drop and you send it sideways at any point, cool. If it has 1 HP, Gun Tank will check it, Anksha will check it. You play out 2 tokens at one time, cool. Kshatriya into Marita will blow up those tokens, and then you still have 1 more ping when you swing with it. Gundam plus Amuro is eating your cards and healing the damage from them. Banshee is destroying your best cards with first strike because they generally will have way higher AP than HP, so you'll just clear the field while going in it, while shuffling back cards. A card comes in and you can literally, even your best cards will get gun tanked or Angshed, and then Battle of Aces off the field. This is likely your worst matchup. This deck will remove your cards as fast as you can play them. Gun Cannon into Amuro will literally tap 2 things, punch something, heal off of it, and then, you know, open up something else to another attack. This deck is red alert, and I do think that this is the worst matchup that One Year War can go up against, just because of how it lines up. So yeah, this is pretty much, I think, the matchup spread currently in the meta for this deck, and realistically you have a lot of well-positioned decks, and only really the mirror and blue-red tempo to watch out for. So I think that's a pretty fair trade. And now let's head into the closing. So yeah, when it comes down to it, I think this deck definitely has a place in the format. He really keeps wing and you know, seed-based blocker decks very, very honest. I do think that when you get put up against a fellow aggro deck, that's when you actually have to start putting on your thinking cap. And we have a nice little situation as we go through more and more of these new type insights. I think it's going to be cool to see that this is going to be a shifting meta, and I don't think this meta is going to stop shifting throughout the remainder of set 1's runtime. I think that we will always have these trends that go back and forth, and the best way to stay prepared is to not only know all these decks, but practice them, practice against them, and then try to predict where your local meta or where your regional meta is going while you go into the event. Be well practiced with everything, be ready to take in multiple options, and try to capitalize on where the trends are going. Right now, aggro is probably going to see a rise, which is probably going to lead to less of, you know, Wing Zero and Wing Zero decks, less blocker decks being played. But I guarantee you, if next week sees a flood of Xeon, like if next week sees a flood of 1 Year War Aggro, then I'm pretty sure that blue-red tempo can come back and just start crushing, because it does feed off of that matchup. So I do think that we will see some shifts. This definitely has a place, and like I said, I do like that there is a deck to keep some of these late game decks honest. Now, I will say that one bad side effect of a deck like this, but also at the same time kind of good side effect of a deck like this, is that you have a consistency check in the meta. You have a deck that literally says, hey bro, if you're trying to be greedy with your strategy, I'm not going to give you the time to pick yourself back off the floor if you start stumbling. We're on go mode right now. You are getting attacked with body after body after body. So a deck like this is going to force consistency to be warranted over greediness, and I think that that really is the way to do things. So yeah, I enjoy this deck, and I do enjoy the theme as well. I love the fact that Amuro and Char can work side by side to make something meta valid. So yeah. Like I said before, like this video if you like the content. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more Gundam card game content in the future, as well as Dragon Ball Super Fusion World. I have not forgotten about that game, just waiting for a few more spoilers to come back. It'll be after I get back from the funeral. And then on top of that, make sure you go in the description, check out all of the lovely links in there. You got my Patreon page. I'm going to start putting Gundam content on there soon. So yeah, look forward to that. We have Risu the Squirrels page if you want to see the EagleX, basically the weekly webcam lives. Those vlogs will all be up on there. Eggman events is what I used to compile some of this data, so you can go over there as well. And then you have my sponsors, both Hyper Beam cards based in Tijuana and Mystic TCG. I keep saying Mystic cards. Mystic TCG based in Missouri. Both of them have excellent owners. Both of them carry Gundam. And if you're ever in those areas, make sure you stop by and maybe play in some of their locals. They cover all of the Bandai games pretty much. So yes, that's pretty much that. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next video, and let me know in the comments what you guys think of this episode, what you guys want to see in the future. Love y'all. Peace.